Hey everybody, welcome to the Undiscovered Games video podcast where we take a look at the lesser known board games of the world and share those with you. I am very excited for this episode today. It's going to be a full tutorial, a detailed review because there's not much content about this game, and these are the types of games I live to find and bring to you. That's what this channel is all about. This one today is called Kogge. This was designed by Andreas Steding way back in 2003. And if you know Steding, he's famous for Hansa Teutonica, which happens to be my favorite game of all time. Now, Kogge might not be quite as good as that game, but I suspect if you like Hansa Teutonica, you'll probably like this game too. This is definitely what I would call a gamer's game. You know, not a family game night type of a game. This game is a grind from start to finish. Points are hard to come by. It's resource management. There's a little bit of trading with each other. There's a little bit of take that. There's route planning. There's bidding for turn order. You even have multi-use tiles, which is similar to multi-use cards, which is another one of my favorite mechanisms. So lots of great interactive, old school German board game flavors here. And the icing on the cake is a terribly written rulebook. You know, what old school game is complete without a bad rulebook? So I did the grunt work here. I got through this rulebook, learned the game in detail. And that's why I wanted to present it in a video format that's hopefully much easier to understand, at least to help you visualize what you're doing, because there's not even any visual examples in this rulebook. So let's get right into setup. First, you're going to place all these cubes on their matching spots on the board. These are the resources, and some are more limited than others. As you can see, the white has less than the gray. Then you're going to place the Guildmaster next to the board, and then you're going to give everybody their player pieces. Everybody in their color has this nice chunky wooden boat here, as well as 4 houses in their color. And you also get 2 raid tokens. And these boats look awesome. They feel awesome. They're really heavy duty. I just love placing those boats around the board. They didn't have to be this big, but these have to be some of the chunkiest wooden components in my entire collection. So I really like the boats in this game. Here we have turn order markers, and then we have the bonus markers. These are very important. These are bonus abilities. There's 2 of each, and these are worth points and special abilities. Here we have the game end token, and then we have a big bag of numbered tiles in the 4 different cube colors. They're numbered 0 through 8, and these are the heart of the game. These are multi-use tiles. You're going to use them to bid, to travel on the map, and so on. Continuing our setup here, we're going to place 3 cubes that match the city colors in each city. So over here we have the orange cities, up top we have the purple cities, and so on. So 3 matching cubes start in each city. Then you're going to place these bonus tokens next to the board. You can group them by type. There's 2 of each type. Take 1 raid marker in each player color, place that next to the game board as well. You're going to have to unlock these, and I'll get to that in a moment. But first, take your boat, 4 houses, and 1 raid marker, as well as 3 starting resources. Everybody starts with 2 grays and 1 orange. Now, the gray is ore, the orange is fur, the purple is amber, I believe, and the white is salt, but I'm just going to call them by their color for the purpose of the video. So everybody takes 2 gray and 1 orange, and then you're going to give everybody 0 through 8, 1 of each tile, and we like to use these Scrabble tile holders, but whatever you want to use, it just makes it nice to keep them easily visible, but also hidden from your opponents. The number color distribution is always the same, so the 0s, 1s, and 2s are always gray, the 3s and 4s are always orange, and so on. Once everybody has their starting tiles numbered 0 through 8, now take 1 additional set of numbers 0 through 8 and mix them face down or in the bag or something and place 1 on each city. Now notice how each city has a printed number in a circle. You need to make sure the number that you draw does not match the number in the circle. We cannot have a 2 on a 2, for example. So you just want to make sure the square number is different than the circled number that's printed. So you're going to go around, place 1 token in each city, and redrawing if you draw any matching numbers. So in this way, each starting city is going to have a unique number, and it's not ever going to match the number that's printed on the city. So after you do this, you need to take all the remaining number tiles and place them in the bag. Now you're going to draw one at random to determine where this guy starts. This is the Guildmaster. So we draw a 0, we look for the 0 that's printed on the board in a circle. That's where the Guildmaster starts, and you place the game end token in that same location, and the game end token will stay there for the rest of the game. Now we're going to fill in the rest of these squares, again following the rule where you can't match the printed number or the number that's already been drawn. So here I would not be allowed to draw a 4 because there's already a 4 there. You can't have two of the same number in the same city. I could also not draw a 1 because it matches the printed circle number. So you just have to keep redrawing until you meet those requirements. Go around to every city. It's a little bit of a bear to set this game up, but it's really not too bad once you kind of wrap your head around those rules. And you really don't have to remember those rules for the rest of the game, except as these tiles change throughout the game, you can never have a square number that matches the circled number in that same city. And you'll see why here in a moment. Next, we have to determine our starting location. I forgot to put this 0 token back in the bag. That was when we determined our Guildmaster location. Now, every player is going to secretly choose one city that they would like to start in. So everybody's going to simultaneously pick one of their tiles. The number on the tile will correspond to the circled number on the board. So everybody does this, and then you reveal your tiles simultaneously. So let's say the red player down here bid the 7. That means they place one of their houses on the 7 city. You look for the circled number on the board. They place a house. They're going to lose this 7 token back to the bag. You'll see why that matters here in a moment. The green player, they played a 5 token, so they place a house up on the 5 city up here. The houses go in those little gray buildings. The yellow player also bid a 5, so there's another little gray building they can place in, also on the 5 city. The blue player, they played their 1 token, they place a house down here on the 1 city. And again, all the tokens that you use go back in the bag for this. Now, I want to draw your attention here. There's room for 2 houses on each city. That can be the same player or 2 different players, but you can never build more than 2 houses. So up at the top here, that city's already maxed out with houses. So if you ever had a situation where like 3 players bid the exact same city, you'd have to do a complete rebid. So everybody would just take those tokens back and do a complete redo until you have a situation that's legal to start the game. Now you're going to place your boat on your same starting area as your house here. So green and yellow go up here on the 5 and blue starts down here on the 1. This will determine our starting turn order, starting with the lowest number. So blue is on the 1. They're going to get first player. To give them the first player marker here. Now green and yellow are both on the 5 city. So they're both next in line. Take the 2 and 3 marker for turn order, mix those up, and randomly determine who gets those. So here yellow is going to go 3rd and green is going to go 2nd. And then finally we have to give red the 4th player marker. Red is on the highest number starting city, so they go last. So it'll be blue, then green, then yellow, then red when we do the first part of the round coming up shortly. And that is the entire game setup. Now to set up a round, it's very simple. You just draw tiles out of this bag and group them into 4 groups of 2. So draw 2 at a time, make them into groups where everybody can see them. And once you have 4 groups of 2 each, 8 tiles total, you're ready to start the round. Now let's talk about these cities before we go into that. This is a gray city down here, so it's going to populate with gray cubes. Now throughout the game, you're going to be trading other cubes to these cities, so there could be other colors here. But when new cubes come from the supply, they're going to match the city color. So these 3 cities across the bottom will produce gray cubes. These 2 cities here will produce orange cubes. The 2 cities up top will produce purple cubes. And these 2 cities over here will produce white cubes. So let's talk about these cities in detail. So like we talked about, the printed circled number is that city. Stockholm is number 1, for instance. This city is number 2. This city is number 3, and so on. Now each city also has 2 arrows pointing at these square numbers. The square numbers say where I'm allowed to travel to from this city. So if my boat is here, I can travel to the 0 city or the 4 city with my ship. So here's the 0 city. I could travel over here, or I could travel up here to the 4 city. So each city has 2 destinations that you can travel to. If I go to the 0 city, then I can travel to the 3 or the 8 from the 0 city. So the square numbers show where you can travel to, and the circle number shows the number that belongs to that city. At the bottom of each city, we have the gray buildings. That's where we build these houses like we talked about. So each city can only hold 2 houses. That can be 2 of the same player or 2 different players. So let's talk about the goal of this game. The main goal is to be the first player to get 5 points. Each house you build is 1 point, so you start with 1 point. So it's kind of like the first of 4 points. Each bonus token you collect down here is also 1 point each. So as soon as somebody hits 5 points, they're going to win immediately. But there's another way the game can end, and that is if this Guildmaster makes 2 laps around the board. And that's why we put this game end token here to show where he starts. So every round he moves clockwise 1 or 2 spaces, and then when he hits this game end token for the second time, then that triggers the end of the game, and we do a different end game scoring. So again, the first player to hit 5 points will win immediately. You get 1 point per house and 1 point per bonus token you've collected. Or if nobody reaches 5 points by the time that Guildmaster makes 2 laps, then we do a different scoring at the end, and I'll go over that later in the video. So now I get to show you what a game round looks like. The very first thing we do in the round is we bid for turn order. Now there's a whole set of rules with this bidding for turn order, which I'll go over later. Just know that's the first step. Then you take your individual turns. I want to skip ahead to the individual turns. So let's pretend we already did the bidding for turn order, and then I will show you the rules for bidding later. So let's say blue player here won the bid for turn order, they get to go first. The very first part of your turn is you can move your ship 1 space for free. So that first move is always free. Blue can go to the 0 or the 4 city. 0 is over here and 4 is up here. Let's say for this example, blue decides to move up to the 4. Now that's free. They could stop there or they could keep moving. From here they can go to the 1 or the 2, but they're going to have to pay to do that. Let's say they want to keep moving and go down to the 2. Every time you move beyond that first movement, you're going to have to pay either 1 cube back to the supply on the board, and that can be any color cube, so 1 cube, or you could pay 1 tile. Any tile you have, also you could pay. And that goes back into the bag. So you have to pay 1 cube or 1 tile, doesn't matter the color, every time you want to keep moving. So if blue wants to continue moving, like say to the 7 port up here, they could move again and pay again. So they could move up to the 7, and then they could pay a cube or a tile again. So you can keep moving as long as you can pay. That first move is free. You don't have to move either. You could just stay put, stop your movement, and start doing your actions. Just once you stop moving, that's when you start doing your actions. So you do all your movement first, then you do your action wherever you end your movement. So in this example, let's say I move my boat up to the 4 city and I stop. Now at this point, I can choose to do actions, like maybe I want to trade cubes, or maybe I want to swap out one of these route tiles here. Maybe I want to build a house if there's a space available. Maybe I want to buy one of these sets of tiles up top. You can also trade with this Guildmaster if he's on your location. You have all these different options once you end your movement. Then once you do all your actions, then it just goes to the next player in turn order. And they do the same thing, move their boat, do the actions. So here green would go next. They can move to the 3 or the 4 from where they are. Let's say for this example, they move down to the 3 city. That move is free. Now if they want to keep moving, they could go to the 2 or the 6, but they're going to have to pay to keep moving. Let's say they want to jump up to the 6. They pay 1 cube of any color back to the supply, and then they can move to the 6. So let's say they decide to stop their movement here, and then they would decide which actions they want to do in that location, like trading cubes, or building a house, or swapping out a tile, or buying one of these sets of tiles up here. All those different options, which I'm going to go over in a minute. Once their turn's done, it goes to the next player, which will be yellow. They can sail to the 3 or the 4. Maybe they want to sail over here to the 4. And from here, they want to get down to the 1. So they're going to pay a cube to keep moving. They pay 1 cube to the supply. Then they move down to the 1. But really, they want to move to the 0 and get where this Guildmaster is. So then they're going to pay a tile. Remember, you can pay a tile or a good of any type to keep moving. Here, they're going to stop their movement and do some actions with this Guildmaster. The Guildmaster gives you a few extra options. And again, I'll cover all the rules in the next segment. I'm just giving you an overview of the round. So then the red player would go, they would move their boat, do the actions, and then the round would end. At the end of the round, you're going to clean off all these unbought tiles, put those back in the bag, and draw 4 new sets of 2 for the next round. The next round will begin with a bid for turn order. You just keep doing this until one player hits 5 points, they win, Or if this Guildmaster makes 2 complete laps, that will end the game, and then we do an end game scoring. So now that you have an overview of what the round looks like, let's go over the individual rules for each part of the round. Rewinding the clock here, this is the beginning of a round. So remember, we drew these 4 groups of 2 tiles. That's the first thing you do to set up the round. You draw those out of the bag. And now we do a bid for turn order. Here's the bidding rules. When you bid, you're going to spend these tiles. Once they're spent, they're gone. Every player has to give a unique bid, but you can combine your tiles however you want. It's just whenever you bid with your tiles, they're going to go back in the bag, so you lose them. So let's say this player blue bids a 4. Next player is green. Now they have to bid something different from a 4. So what I mean by different is they can't just bid a 4, but they could bid 2 2s, or they could bid a 4 and a 0 if they wanted to keep the same numerical value. It's just they can't have an identical bid. So they could group a 4 and a 0, and that would be legal. Let's say they do that. Now it goes to the yellow player. They have to place a unique bid. They can't bid a 4, and they can't bid a 4 and a 0, so they just bid a 3 tile. Finally, the red player, they're going to bid a 1. So every player has played a unique bid. Now you need to resolve from highest to lowest. There's a hierarchy for bidding. For example, the 0-4 is going to beat the singular 4, and I'll go over all that in a minute. But the first thing we need to do is we need to generate cubes on the board based on the tiles that were bid. For example, this 4 orange and this 4 orange are going to produce cubes on the number 4 city. The way it works is it's 2 cubes per tile that was bid. So you start with the highest numbers first. So the 4 city is going to get 2 orange cubes for this bid and 2 orange cubes for that bid. It's always 2 cubes to the city, and the colors match the city. The 3 tile up there, that's going to produce 2 orange cubes on the 3 city. If you don't have enough cubes in the supply, you just put what you can. Sometimes those run out. Then we go down to the 1 gray. That's going to give 2 gray cubes to the 1 city. Now notice there's a house built in the 1 city. Anytime there's a house built, each house is going to get a cube before you put it in the center. So the first cube goes to the house, the next cube goes to the center. If there would have been 2 houses built here, you'd put 1 cube on this house, 1 cube on the other house, and no cubes in the middle. So the houses get first dibs when you place these cubes out. Now the 0 city still needs to be populated with 2 gray cubes. Again, the color matches the city, and first we would put cubes, 1 on each house first, and then any leftovers go in the center of the city. Now the hierarchy of bids is a little bit wonky to understand. For example, the 0-4 bid is going to beat the singular 4 bid. Anytime you add a 0 to a number, it strengthens the bid. I'll go over some more examples in a minute, but for now, the 0-4 bid is the strongest bid out there. So in this example, they take the start player marker. The next highest bid at the table is the blue bid up there with the singular 4 marker. So they take second player. Then the next highest bid is the 3 bid up there. They remain third player. And finally, 1 is the lowest bid, so they keep fourth player. All the tokens that were bid get placed back in the bag. So every time you bid, you have to think you're going to be losing these tokens, but you're also going to be helping to populate the board with cubes. So you're thinking about where your houses are, as well as which tokens you want to keep behind your screens for future use as well. So after we have set turn order, now we take our individual turns, starting with the start player, then this player, then that player, then that player. Now I want to tackle the hierarchy of bidding here with some examples. Remember, you're going to be getting a lot of different numbered tiles throughout the game. Anytime you can bid with identical numbers, like multiples of the same number, that's going to be a better bid. So let me show you how this would work. Let's just say this was how all the players at the table bid. Red, in this example, bid 2 1s, blue bid a 4, yellow bid 2 2s, and green bid a 3 and a 1. Who has the highest bid at the table? Well, the more identical numbers you have, the better, and then you go highest to lowest. So in this example, yellow has 2 2s. That's the highest bid at the table because they're identical numbers and they're higher than the identical ones. So yellow becomes the first player in this example. They take the start player marker, then the identical ones would be the second highest bid, so they take second player. Now, what about the other 2 players at the table? Well, we have a singular 4 bid up here, and then we have a 3 and a 1 down here. In this example, the higher number wins. as long as there's no identicals involved. So the 4 is higher than the 3 and the 1. So in this example, the 4 would be the next highest bid. They would take the 3rd player marker, and then the 3 and the 1 would be the lowest bid at the table. So they would be the 4th player. And this is one of those things that makes sense to me, but I don't really know how to explain it. It's sort of like learning poker hands in a way. For example, if you add a 0 to the 4, all of a sudden it beats the singular 4, because the 4s are the same number, but adding a 0 is strengthening the bid. That's how I think about it. So in this example, the 0-4 would be the 3rd highest bid at the table. So they would take the 3rd player marker, and then the singular 4 would be the lowest bid in this example. Let's take this a step farther. Let's pretend the yellow player up there bid 3 identical numbers, but they were all zeros. If they bid 3 zeros, now they have the highest bid at the table because triples are going to beat double ones. Even though the 0 is smaller than 1, there's 3 zeros. So triples are going to beat doubles every time. So the only way you would beat the triple zeros is if you bid triples that were higher than 0. So I guess the easiest way to think of it is the more identical numbers you have, the better, and then you kind of just go down from there, eventually ending with the singular number bids or the non-identical bids. So in my last example here, yellow is first player with triples, then red with doubles. Then blue and green just bid unique numbers. So you would just add those up to determine who wins between them. So blue has the higher sum, 4 plus 3. So theirs is the 3rd highest bid, and then green is the 4th highest bid with just a 4 plus 1. And I'll show you here how they have it worded in the rulebook. I found this very confusing, but if you make sense of this better than my explanation, then hopefully this will help you somewhat. Just know there's never going to be 2 identical bids, so there's always going to be a way to resolve that hierarchy. And the final thing to note is if a player is ever unable to bid, so if they're out of tiles completely, or if they can only duplicate a previous bid, remember you're not allowed to bid the same thing as an opponent. So let's say this player bid a 2, and then on my turn, all I have is a 2 tile. Well, I can't duplicate their bid. So I have to say I have a duplicate bid, I can't bid. So if you cannot bid, you're just going to go last in turn order. You don't bid anything. And if multiple players can't bid, then they also go last, but they'll have to be determined randomly who goes like 3rd and who goes 4th. Again, you can just shuffle up the leftover turn order tiles to determine that randomly. So non-bidding players always go last. That's all the rules for the auction for turn order. Now we can get into the individual turns of the game. This is the meat of the game. It's just there's a lot of little rules to remember and go over in the video. So the yellow player is the start player, and the start player always has a duty to move the Guildmaster. They must move the Guildmaster 1 or 2 spaces clockwise. So you only move 1 space at a time unless there's any of these raid markers on these locations, which we haven't talked about yet, but the Guildmaster will skip over the raid markers. So in this example, he could move 1 space here, or 2 spaces, you would skip the raid marker and come up to here. And one more thing to note, wherever the Guildmaster ends, he's going to bring 2 goods with him of that city type. So in this case, 2 orange goods would populate this city. And these cubes do not go into the houses first, like we do during turn order when we fill up the houses first, then the cities. The Guildmaster always puts cubes directly into the city, and it's always 2 cubes, and it's always the same color as the city. This is an easy rule to forget, and I forgot this in several of the examples going forward. So I'll try to make a note on the screen where I forgot to put those cubes out for the Guildmaster. But that's one of those rules that's very easy to forget. It's even easy to forget to even move the Guildmaster 1 or 2 spaces every round of the game. So back to where we were, yellow moves the Guildmaster. They forgot to put the 2 cubes out like we just talked about, and now yellow takes their turn. The first part of their turn is movement. They can move 0 spaces or 1 space for free, and anything beyond that is going to cost them. They can go to the 3 or the 4 from where they are. They like all those cubes over there on the 4, so that's where they're going to start. Now again, they could keep moving, and then they could go from there. They could go to the 1 or the 2 down here. So let's say for this example, they're just going to stop here because they don't want to have to pay that extra cube or that extra tile to the supply. So they stop their movement. Now they get to do each action one time in this location. So you can only do each action once. You don't have to do every action. You don't have to do any actions. They're all optional, and you can do them in any order you want. You just can only do each choice one time on this turn. And before I go over those, I want to go over one more little rule to remember, and that is regarding your houses. Let's say it's later in the game, and let's say yellow already had a house built here, and let's say it already had an orange good attached to it. Those houses can have multiple goods attached to it, by the way. Now let's say they move to the 4. They immediately get any goods that are attached to their house in that location. They just take those into their possession. Now, that does not end your movement. You automatically collect goods that are on your houses. So at this point, they could keep moving, down to the 2, but they would have to pay something to move again. But I'm just showing you that when you have houses built, your ship automatically gets any goods that are attached to it, including where you begin your movement. So at the beginning of your turn, if this yellow house here had a good on it and you didn't even move yet, you would automatically collect that good before you moved. Anywhere your ship touches that has a house of your color, you're going to automatically get the goods that are attached to that house. And this is important because you can build up a lot of these goods throughout the game on these houses and then just sail through and rake in all these cubes before you ever stop your movement. And remember, houses gain cubes based on the tiles that you bid with. So that's going to affect what you bid throughout the game as well. And bear with me, I know this is a lot to take in, but hopefully you're starting to see some strategies emerge here. So yellow moves, they stop their movement. Now we're going to go over the actions you can do once you end your movement. Again, all these actions are optional. You can do these in any order. Let's talk about building a house or building an office, as the game calls it. To build an office, you need to spend 3 cubes. One of each of the colors that does not match the city. So this city is orange. That means I have to spend 1 gray, 1 white, and 1 purple cube. So the colors of the cubes that are not of the city. In addition to the cubes, I also have to spend a route marker or possibly 2. So in this example, I have to spend a number 4 route marker equal to the number 4 city. If there's already a house built, which there is, I have to spend 2 number 4 route markers. So if it's the second house, you spend 2 markers. If it's the first house, you spend 1 marker. And then markers have to match the city. So here, there's a house built. I have to spend 2 number 4 tiles plus 1 of each cube color that does not match the city color. And once again, don't forget, each city only has 2 spots to build an office or a house. The next optional action is trading with the Guildmaster. You have to be in the same location as the Guildmaster, so let's skip that one for now and move to buying new route markers. Remember, we set these sets of 2 out at the beginning. You can buy 1 set of these, and it doesn't matter where your ship is located. You always have access to buying 1 set of these tiles. And it just costs 1 cube. So if I wanted those zeros there, I would just have to pay 1 cube of any color from my supply back to the board, and then you just take the set of tiles that you want and put them behind your screen. So that's very easy. Another optional action is trading goods. And the way this works is wherever your boat is located, you can trade 1 good from your supply for any 2 goods that are located in that city. The goods that you trade for have to be different from the goods that you spend. Let me show you an example here. If my boat was here, I could trade 1 gray and take 2 oranges back into my supply. So it's always a 1 to 2 trade. So I could not put an orange in and then get 2 oranges back. The cubes you receive always have to be different from the cubes you put in. And if there's not enough cubes there, you could just do a 1 to 1 trade. That would be fine as well. Let me set up an example and show you some possibilities here. Let's just say this was the setup, and let's say my boat was here. I could trade, 1 gray cube and take, 2 orange cubes, or I could take the 2 purple cubes, or I could take 1 of each, orange and purple. And you are allowed to keep doing this as long as you have more cubes to spend. So I could spend this other gray cube and then get 2 more cubes as long as I'm not taking gray. So I could take, an orange and a purple, or, 2 more oranges, however I want to do that. Now I could not spend this orange cube because I don't have anything else to take. I can't take the cubes I just put in. So as long as you are spending cubes that you already had and receiving cubes that were already there, and that the colors aren't being traded for the same colors, then you're safe. And you can do that 1 to 2 trade as many times as you want. The next optional action is change trade routes. This one's really fun. I like this one a lot. So all you do is take one tile from behind your screen and replace it with one of the face-up tiles where your boat is. And the tile that you put out goes face down. So let's say I wanted this number 2 tile behind my screen. I would take this, and then I could put any other tile out face down. So I'm the only one that will know what that is, and any opponents that want to use that trade route, they'll have to commit to that before they know what it is. And then they'll flip the tile and see where they're going. So it's a little bit of a surprise factor. You can also use this to maybe hide where you want to go next, something like that. Now you can only swap for the face up tile. So if there's a face down tile there already, you can't swap with that. You can only swap with ones that are face up. But once somebody decides to use that face down tile and visit that location, it gets revealed, and then it could be swapped for on a future turn. And don't forget, when you put those tiles out, it cannot match the city number. So here, that face down tile could not be a 5. Those tiles always have to send you to another city. So this swapping strategy is a good way to also get certain tiles into your possession. Like if there's a specific number tile that you're wanting, then you could swap for that number and keep it behind your screen, maybe for a future bid or for building a house or something like that. And we have 2 more optional actions to discuss. The last one listed here is raid. I don't want to do raid yet, so let's jump back up to trading with the Guildmaster. So once again, you have to be located in that same city as the Guildmaster. So let's say it's the beginning of Red's turn. They're going to sail here, and then they're going to pay to sail again down to the 2, because that's where the Guildmaster is. So you're going to pay, let's say, a tile back to the bag to be able to sail again. They're going to go to the 2, and then they're going to end their movement there and do their actions. So they can do all their regular actions, but now they have another option, and that is trading with the Guildmaster. When you trade with the Guildmaster, you have 3 options. You can only do one option each turn. The first one is trading in 3 identical number tiles to unlock your other raid token. So in this example, we could spend like 3 7s, any 3 of the same number. Those 7s go back in the bag, and then you take your extra raid token that was by the board. So now you've unlocked that. So now you have 2 raids instead of 1 that you can use. Now let's say instead I would rather use this option with the Guildmaster, and that is selling 6 identical goods or cubes to get 1 bonus tile. So you can get 1 of those bonus tiles at the bottom. Again, you have to be where the Guildmaster is located, and you also have to have 6 of the same cube to be able to trade in. So let's say in this example, Red has 6 cubes of the same color. They can spend all 6 of these gray cubes back to the supply on the board. They can take 1 of these bonus tiles. Now these tiles don't look fancy, but they are very powerful. First, they're worth 1 point each. So every one of these you get 1 point. So right now Red has 2 points. They have a house and a bonus tile. And remember, it's the first to 5 points is going to win the game. And I will go over what these bonus tiles do here in a moment. But first, let's talk about the last option when you're with the Guildmaster. And this is very simple. You can exchange 1 good cube for 1 route marker of the same color, or vice versa. So that's a cube for a tile or a tile for a cube. And again, you have to be where the Guildmaster is. Let's say the red player wants a gray tile. They spend a gray cube to the supply. Then they can get a gray tile out of the bag. They can look through the bag and take any gray tile they want. So it's just a 1-to-1 exchange, color for color. Now, if I didn't do that, I could instead trade a tile and get a cube. So let's say I spend a orange tile to the bag, then I get an orange cube from the supply in return. Now, if there's no cubes out there, I can't do that, obviously. But you have to choose one of the 2 things, either a cube for a tile or a tile for a cube. Can't do both. So that's your 3 options when you trade with the Guildmaster. Quick recap, you can spend 3 of the same number tile to unlock your other raid token. You can spend 6 of the same cube color to take a bonus token, which is worth a point and an ability. Or you can trade a cube for a tile or a tile for a cube. The final optional action is a raid, and I've put this off to the end because this is like a power move. It's like a one-time use, maybe two if you can unlock your other raid token. But let's say it's blue's turn, and I'm going to show you how to do a raid. So the first part of the turn is the movement. So blue is going to first move up here to the 4 city. They're going to stop their movement now. Now they would do their actions. So they could do any actions they want, but as soon as they play their raid token, their turn ends immediately. So you want to play this at the right moment here. But let's just say they want to come up here and raid right away. The way a raid works is you take your token and you place it out on this city. Now you can either raid the city itself or another player that's sharing that port with you. So let's say you want to raid this city. You get to take every cube in the houses and in the city into your supply. So if you raid the city, you just take every cube that's there. Those go into your supply, your raid token stays out, and then your turn ends immediately. Now, if you did not want to raid the city, you can instead raid another player whose boat is in the same spot as you. So in this example, blue could raid the yellow player. Now you get to choose, so if, let's just say green was over there too, you would get to choose one of those players to raid. So let's say blue wants to raid yellow. The way this works is yellow, the defending player here, splits all of their cubes into 2 separate groups. However they want, you want to do this as evenly as possible because the blue player, the raider, gets to choose one of those groups to take. So it's kind of like an I cut, you choose type of thing. So the defender splits their cubes and then the raider takes one group of those cubes into their possession. That's going to end their turn immediately as well. And after a raid, the other players sort of chase that player out of town. So blue has to retreat and the other players get to decide where. They can choose one of the 2 shipping routes that's on that city. So in this example, they could go to the 1 or the face down token, and then blue would have to retreat to that location. So let's say in this example, the players decided to use the face down tile, then blue has to retreat to the 7. So that's how a raid works. Now, blue is never allowed to visit this city ever again during the game. Once your raid token is out, that place is off limits. You cannot even sail through that area. So you can't build houses there, you can't collect goods there, you can't do business there because you've essentially ruined your reputation in that part of town by doing a raid there. So raiding is a power move. You definitely want to know when the right moment is to use it. It can be incredibly mean if you decide to raid somebody after they just got a ton of cubes. So, be prepared to create some enemies at the table, but it doesn't come without some consequences as well because you really have to decide when you want to completely stop visiting a location for the rest of the game. Anyway, after each player takes their turn in turn order, the end of the round is very simple. We just wipe all the unbought tiles, put those back in the bag, and then you just start another round by drawing 4 sets of 2 tiles just like we did before. And once those are out, you just do another bid for turn order. So yellow would get first bid, then red, then blue, then green. After everybody bids, you add the cubes based on the tiles that were bid. Then you determine the new turn order. Start player moves that Guildmaster 1 or 2 spaces, populate those cubes, and then begin the individual turns. Now we're almost to the end of the tutorial here, and I just wanted to cover a couple more little rules you might encounter, unique situations and things like that. So let's go back to the beginning of a round. We're bidding for turn order here. Yellow bids 2 4s. Then it's the red player's turn to bid. They're going to bid 2 7s, which will beat the 2 4s. This player here bids a 2, and this player, green, bids a 7. So the first thing we do, again, is we resolve turn order. So the double 7s, that's the highest bid at the table. They take the start player. Then double 4s, they're the second in line, so they take the 2 player. Then the singular 7, they become third player. And the lowest bid at the table is the singular 2 up top. They get the 4. Now, we need to populate cubes based on these tiles. So we start at the highest numbers for the tiles. So the 2 white 7s there, each of those gets 2 white cubes. First in the house, then in the center with any leftovers. You do it again. First in the house, then in the center for the next 7 tile. Then you go to this 7 tile over here. Well, there's no more white cubes, but if there were, we would do that 7 tile next. Then we would jump down to the next numbers in line, which are the 4s. Well, we're out of orange cubes to populate the 4s, but if we had them, we would do the same thing, where you would, put 1 on that house and then 1 in the center and then do it again. But we don't have any orange cubes, so nothing happens up there with the 4s. Now we go over and do the gray cubes. So for that tile there, we have to populate 2 gray cubes in the gray city. There's no houses built, so they go into the city. Now if, let's just say, this had 2 houses built like this, then if we populated them with gray cubes, then you would put 1 in each house and you would have none left over for the middle of the city. And don't forget, later if green decides to sail here and then down to here, they would automatically scoop up any cubes that are attached to their house along the way. So you just can't forget to always collect your cubes every time you sail past your houses. One more scenario is if there's not enough gray cubes to populate that city, there's houses built there. Well, which house gets the cube? Neither of them. So the gray cube stays on the board. And the last weird rule to remember is, if you remember, I said you don't have to move. So if you choose to stay put and then start doing actions where your boat already is, you can do any of the actions except trading cubes. So you're not allowed to do the 1 to 2 trade, but any of the other actions are open if you choose not to move. So there's just a little penalty if you don't move your boat. And I might have mentioned this, but you are allowed to have the same numbers here later in the game as these tiles change. You just can never have the same number as the printed number on the city. But during setup, you're not allowed to have the same numbers there. But just as you switch these tiles, it is possible that, 2 1s might show up in the same area, and that is legal. Another weird situation might happen at the end of the game. So you remember, it's the first player to hit 5 points wins the game. You get a point for each of these bonus tiles and a point for each house. 5 points instantly wins the game. Well, you only have 4 houses to build, so if you didn't have any bonus tiles, but you wanted to build that 5th house, you could build the 5th house if you have materials to pay for it, and then that would just win you the game right away. So you don't actually have 5 houses physically to build, but you are allowed to build the 5th house and win the game instantly. They just don't give you a wooden piece for your 5th house. Now let's talk about the other endgame situation, and that's if the Guildmaster makes 2 complete laps around the board. When the Guildmaster hits the game end marker for the second time, so either reaches or passes it, the game ends immediately. You do not finish out the round, and then you proceed to a final scoring. So as long as nobody has 5 points yet, now you have to determine who wins by using this chart. So each office you have built is worth 10 points. Each bonus marker you own is worth 20 points. Each unused raid marker that you have is 10 points. So any raid markers you have not used, it does not specify if these are locked or unlocked. It probably means only the ones you've unlocked, but that's open for interpretation. Finally, you get points for your goods and goods attached to your houses still. So all those are going to score points based on these charts here. 7 points for each white, 5 for each purple. This says brown, but it's actually orange. So 3 points for each orange and 1 for each gray. So add up all your points, again, cubes that you own and cubes in your houses. And at that point, whoever has the most points wins the game. And if there's a tie for most points, there's no tiebreaker. You share the victory. And again, you only use that chart if this guy makes 2 complete laps. Otherwise, it's whoever hits 5 points first, 1 point per house and 1 point per bonus tile that you've collected. So that's the scoring in the game. What do these bonus tiles do? So there's only 4 of them, and let's go over what these do really quick. So if you own any of these bonus tiles, they're going to give you a special ability. This one here says you get 1 extra marker per round before we do the auction. So before we bid for turn order, anybody who owns one of those, they get to reach in the bag and pull out a random tile and keep it behind their screens. They could possibly use that to bid with or whatever. So that's how that works. And the rulebook does not clarify if you own 2 of those bonus markers. I would assume you get to draw 2 extra tiles, out of the bag. It doesn't really specify that, but that's a possibility. And I would think you would get to draw 2 if you had both of those. The next bonus tile gives you some more flexibility when you move your ship. The way this works is this lets you move to wherever the Guildmaster is instead of those two numbers there. So you can move to wherever the Guildmaster is or where those numbers are. It's just going to cost you a good if you use that secret movement. So I could move to the 3, the 4, or the Guildmaster, but I have to pay one extra good or tile to use that Guildmaster movement. So let's just say if that was my first movement, I would have to pay one good or one tile because I didn't use the 3 or the 4. Now let's say I move to the 4 first so I can scoop up this good. That's my free movement. Now my second movement is going to cost me. I'm not going to go to the 3. I'm not going to go to the 7. I'm going to use my bonus ability to go to the Guildmaster. So because I already used my free move, this is now going to cost me 2 goods or 2 tiles or a good and a tile because I use the ability to go to the Guildmaster instead of one of the ports. So that bonus token lets you visit the Guildmaster. You just have to pay one extra thing to be able to use it still. Next up here is 2 free movement instead of just 1. So normally when you move your boat, your first move is free and then you have to start paying to keep moving. So if green moves over here to the 3 port, now they can move to the 2 or the 6 without having to pay that good or that tile. So let's say they move over here to the 6. Now if they want to keep moving, it's normal. So if they want to keep moving to the 2 or the 5, they'd have to pay their good or their tile just like usual. So the first 2 moves are free if you own that tile. And if you own a second one of those tiles, I'm not sure. The rulebook does not specify. Would you get 4 free movement? That seems like a lot, but I don't know. The last bonus tile is a better trade ratio. Now this should really say 1 to 3 instead of 3 to 1. So it's a little confusing, but just know that when you trade goods at a city, so after you do your movement and you're doing your optional actions, you can normally spend a cube and get 2 in return. So I could spend a gray cube normally and get 2 other cubes. Well, now I can get 3 other cubes if I have that bonus tile. And you still have to obey the rule where you can't take the same color cubes back that you spent. So if you spend a gray, the cubes you get in return have to be a different color. But you could use that ratio and do, a 2 to 6 trade or a 3 to 9 trade. As long as you have the cubes to spend and the cubes that are there are not the same color, you can use that however you want. And you could still do a 1 to 2 trade if there's not enough cubes there available. It just gives you the option to go up to a 3. Now the game does give you some freedom to trade with your opponents, but the only rule is you have to be at the same port as your opponent. But you are allowed to trade cubes and tiles with them. So let's say it's yellow's turn, and yellow decides to sail to the 7 port for their movement. And then they're going to stop their movement there. Now, let's say they like those white cubes, and they're going to trade in their orange cubes for white cubes. So they could trade 2 orange cubes and get 4 white cubes in return. So blue sees these white cubes over there, and they see this as an opportunity to trade with the yellow player since they're in the same port. Blue would really like some of those white cubes because they don't have any. So maybe they're going to be like, you know what? I'll offer you, yellow player, would you like my 7 and 8 tile for 2 white cubes? And then the yellow player, since they're at the same port, they can decide if they want to take that deal or not. And so let's say they take the deal, you swap cubes, and you go on from there. You're also allowed to pay somebody to not do something. So if yellow was going to be moving the Guildmaster on the next turn or something, they could say, I'll give you, 2 cubes to move the Guildmaster 1 space instead of 2 or whatever. As long as you are on the same port as a player, then you can try to barter with them or make a deal. You could say, hey, I don't want you to swap this trade route. Would you, I'll pay you 2 cubes to not do what you're about to do. That is allowed, and the only rule there is you must keep your promises if you do make deals like that. So they are binding deals, but you are allowed to trade if you're on the same port. And that introduces a nice little interaction, and we actually used that more than we thought we would when we first learned the rules to the game. So just don't forget, you are allowed to trade with each other. It's easy to forget that rule. And finally, the rulebook here does have the option for an advanced game if that's not complex enough for you. I'll let you kind of maybe pause the video and read through the advanced rules. We have never played the advanced game before because I don't feel like the game needs anything else. I think it is very well balanced and the scores are usually tight. And there are certainly plenty of interesting decisions without even using the advanced variant. So if you've ever played the advanced game, let me know in the comments how that changes the game. I'd be interested to know. But for now, I don't really have a desire to add anything else to this game. I think it really works as it is. And I'm going to end the tutorial here and begin my review. So this is a game that I really enjoy, even though this is quite a difficult game to teach and learn, and the strategies are not immediately apparent until you sit down and play a few rounds. And even then, it takes a learning game or two, I would say. So this is definitely not for everybody. It's dense, it's dry, it's thinky. But at the same time, I find it very satisfying when you can pull off a cool turn, manipulate those mechanisms in your favor and just get that one little point from building that house, or figure out how to get that one bonus tile and just get that point. So the points are very hard to come by, but they're very satisfying when you can get them. So that's how I would describe this game. It reminds me of some other games I like that are very thick and dense, like Caylus or Tigris and Euphrates. Games like that where you just grind it out from start to finish. These old school Euro games that have some grit to them. I love games like that. I realize they're not for everybody. So hopefully this video will give you an idea of what Kogge is all about. I definitely think this game could be reprinted and streamlined quite a bit. The rules could be cut down in half, I think. And instead of those little tiles, I almost think you could use like some small cards. That would be a lot easier to keep a hand of cards and then shuffle to draw numbers and things like that. But it is what it is. I just can't believe they didn't include some kind of tile holder or something in the game, because it's really fiddly to try to, look through a hand of tiles. That's why we use those Scrabble tile holders, which work fine. It's just weird the game didn't come with anything. So I digress. I really like the tiles in this game because they're multi-use. I like how you can combine them to bid in different ways just to make a unique bid, but also to generate more cubes on the board. That's really interesting when you have houses built in certain areas. You're going to want to spend certain tiles during your bid to populate your houses with cubes. And I also like how the tiles can be spent, to move your ship further, or swapped out to change the trade routes or the shipping routes or whatever. So there's a lot of uses for your tiles in this game. You can even trade a tile for a cube with the Guildmaster. You can spend tiles to get your other raid token. Lots of different uses for these tiles. And I would say that's probably my favorite part of the game. If I had to pick one thing that I really, really like and that I think feels unique, it's all the different ways you can use your tiles. So it's kind of like multi-use cards. And that's one of my highlights of this game for sure. So that's Kogge. Check it out if you've never heard of this one or you've never tried it. Hopefully my video will give you an idea if this is one you want to seek out. It's definitely a hard game to find. You really got to keep your eyes open for this one. And if it comes up available somewhere and you have the chance to try it, I would recommend it if you like these types of games. One thing I'm a little bit iffy on is the double end game condition. So it's like either you get 5 points or the Guildmaster makes 2 laps and then you do this whole different set of scoring. To me, that's hard to plan for both. And I would almost say play the game one way or the other. So either just play until somebody hits 5 points, or play where the Guildmaster makes 2 laps and then tally up your scores that way. I don't know that I am sold on the double scoring, because you can't really plan for that end game scoring if you're trying to race to 5 points. A lot of times that creeps up on you and you're like, oh, I guess I'm just stuck doing the end game scoring now, and here's this big list of stuff that scores all these random points. So it just feels a little weird to me that there's 2 different end game scenarios. I don't know if that's to cut down on the play time or what, but my suggestion would be pick one or the other and try it that way. As it is now, this is an 8.5 out of 10. The only thing that keeps this game from being a top tier game in my collection, like 9 and above, is the rulebook and just how difficult this is to teach to other people. As you might have noticed, I really struggled to put this tutorial together in a way that made sense to me. The way I read this rulebook does not make sense to my brain, like the way it's laid out. I feel like if you teach this game just, going through the turn from start to finish, that auction alone is going to take a long time to teach to people. And then at the end of it, they're like, wait, that was just to bid for turn order after you go through all those little rules. So it's kind of a tricky game to figure out how to teach. Hopefully my video can help you make some sense out of this rule book. And if nothing else, just learn about a very obscure game. So I have to ask, what's the most obscure game in your board game collection? What's your favorite conversation piece to show other gamers? This is certainly one of mine, and I would love to know about yours as well. So make sure you comment below. If you have any questions about this tutorial, make sure you ask away in the comments, and check the description too, because I always include any clarifications or mistakes that I might have made. I always put those in the description below. And if you want to help the channel farther, there is a PayPal link in the description below as well. Think of that as like a digital tip jar to help keep my channel alive and keep sharing all these undiscovered games with all of you. The best way to help the channel though is to make sure you click subscribe and share this video with all your board gaming friends, and make sure they're subscribed as well, because as long as my subscribers are going up, I'm going to continue to share my undiscovered games collection with all of you. I really enjoyed doing this. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another great game on the next episode. We'll see you then.